Welcome to Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I'll be covering every studio song the band has recorded and every bonus track that I can find. Each week we'll go over a new song from the beginning to where they are currently, and as they keep adding albums, I'll keep adding shows. Let the deep dive party begin.
In the magic garden, some were singing, some were dancing.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I am your host, Scott Haskin, and I have a really good song for you guys today. We are going over the song Something or Nothing by Uriah Heep, of course, on the album Wonderworld. And you know what's great about this song is it is a shuffle. And we have not heard a shuffle in a little while. So it's nice to get back to that. This album really has an interesting selection when it comes to the order of the songs, because, you know, you've got a heavier one, then a lighter one, and a heavier one, and a lighter one. And now we're hitting a shuffle. But I got to tell you, I hope that your commute does not have a lot of traffic today, because here we have another short song. It's again under 3 minutes. And it's a pretty simple, straightforward song. So there's not a lot of commentary, but I do have some things to say about it. Of course, like I'm just going to play the song and not interject with my thoughts. Why would I do that? I don't know what you're here more for, my thoughts or the song. But either way, you get them both. That is the joy of this show, or at least I hope so. But no, it's a really good song. It's got a good groove to it. It's at first it really kind of puts me off because I don't remember hearing it this way, you know, when I first heard the song. But it's interesting because it feels off at the you know, the first section of it. It's a shuffle, but it doesn't feel like it fits, but it does. And that's kind of magical to me. So I'll let you guys hear it and form your own opinion, and we'll talk about it after the first section of the song. So here is Something or Nothing. You know, it seems like on a lot of these shorter songs, the big difference between this and a longer song from Uriah Heep is really that long intro buildup that they'll do from time to time. And I wonder, I'd have to go back and check and, you know, sort of start the song at the point where the riff kicks in and see what the difference in time is from the intro. But the intros can be like a full minute sometimes, or even a little more, up to 1:20. So this is basically a regular Uriah Heep song without that long intro. But what's interesting about this is that it feels like the timing of the bass and drums playing together, which are very tight, and the guitar keyboards, they feel off, but yet it works. It's almost like, you know, playing 3/4 over 4/4, and eventually it meets up. It has that sort of feel to it. And I haven't actually sat down and calculated it to figure out exactly what's going on here. But it definitely feels like they're two different things that just match up very nicely. And it's kind of magical to me because it's rare that I find anything that works quite on that level. I can't even think of any other examples of a song that works quite the way this does, but it works, and it does very well. Also, we've got a lot going on. We've got a really cool drum beat and just a pounding grooving bass line that are very tight together. I love the way it sounds. It's a good balance between the two. Again, you know, with almost every Uriah Heep song up through this point, I could say I would like a little more snare. I would like something that sounds a little bit poppier and maybe a little bit punchier of a kick to just drive it a little bit more. But for the most part, I love the drum sound. I think especially for the shuffles, I think that the shuffles in particular, on Lee's kit anyway, the way he plays it just sounds fantastic. And with the shuffle, it's almost impossible to get a poppier snare if you're playing everything as a double shuffle. And if you don't know what a double shuffle is, I did a pretty decent explanation of it on my YouTube channel. However, Russell Gilbrook came along like a month later and did one that just completely made mine look like, a kid's book. He did a great job explaining it, and he's so enthusiastic about it too, which is what I loved. And those videos are out there on YouTube. In fact, I just saw today that Peisty Cymbals reposted his videos. He is a Peisty artist, of course. My favorite cymbals, they have been since I was a little kid. I just love the sound of them. But anyway, if you want to really get a good listen of what those cymbals sound like, the best recording I think I've ever heard that really helps the cymbals stand out is the album Come and Get It by Whitesnake. Ian Pace played the 2002 series on that album, and they just sound so amazing on that album. He also uses larger size cymbals so that they really cut through. But I still don't know what Lee Kerslake was playing at the time, but his cymbals sound really good on this. I love his hi-hat sound on this with the snare. And again, when you're doing a double shuffle like that, you don't get power hits out of things because you just don't have the room to do it. As you would on a regular straightforward beat. So the snare sounds a little more gentle because of that, but it really works on this song. But what's more interesting is just the timing of it. When you listen to the guitars and the keyboards, and I love the riff that the guitars are playing, and the keyboards are really just backing it up. But it's really nice. It's I don't even know how to explain it because it sounds kind of like he's moving the whammy bar, but it also sounds straightforward. This is just like the weirdest song for me to explain. There's so many things going on, but yet not at the same time. But just the way it blends together makes it so much more interesting. And I just love the sound, though. In any case, whatever he's doing to get it is fantastic. I love the riff. I love the shuffle. The keyboards are doing a nice job thickening up the sound. And it's just a kick-ass opening for a good rock and roll song. It's great to hear Gary Thain playing back up to his normal adventurous playing, although I still feel like he's laying back a little bit here. I feel like he's kind of, putting his hand into that world, but not really fully exploring what he could do. And that's okay, because just because you can do something doesn't mean you should, doesn't mean it's the best thing for the song. In fact, a lot of times it's not. But I feel like he's being a little bit restrained here in this song, and that's okay. But I do like what he's playing. I think it fits well. I love the guitars on this song. This is really, one of the first songs on this album. And here we are a few songs in where you really get to hear the guitar and what it's doing. So much of it is more keyboard oriented, but it's really nice to hear the guitars cutting through, playing some really solid stuff too. Absolutely solid. Love it. The vocals are really nice too. I like the doubling on it. It definitely adds a nice texture to it, and very perfectly done. So if he actually sang that versus like a doubler being used in the studio, it seems pretty flawless to me. I can't hear anything that's off. So perfect vocal, absolutely. And again, he just delivers such an amazing performance, something that you feel every word. Even if you're not listening to the words, you feel it in the melody of the way he's singing. But great. And then we've got backups in there, the harmonies that we've come to expect. So I kind of feel like we're returning to what we come to expect from Uriah Heep in this song. Not that the others weren't, because they've certainly all been on par with songs that the band has done before. But this is like... this feels like we're locking in back on what seems to be the biggest foundation of the band right here in this song. I really feel like David Byron was in a good mood when he recorded the vocals. He's being very, articulate during the harmony sections, having a lot of extra things to add. But I really like the changes here. I like the way that Heep is, and they're very commonly doing this, but it's a matter of having your verse and then you drop down in pitch for a couple of lines going into the chorus or as a pre-chorus. And I love the way they do that. They just always pick that right pitch to go to, and it feels very natural, sounds good. Harmony sounds fantastic. The beat is still driving just the way it does. And that's very typical when they do shuffles. There's not a lot of change in the beats. Most of the time, the shuffles just go straight through and just keep that grooving drive the whole time. But really good stuff. And I feel like we're about to hit a guitar solo. I can honestly say I don't think it would be fair to ask for a better or more fitting solo for this song. That was absolutely perfect. It went in new directions with every pass, but it stayed true to the song. It was very interesting. It had a lot of color, but didn't stray. I mean, that was just perfect. And it just goes to show another reason why I feel Mick Box is such a master of the guitar. But it's interesting how few songs from this band have guitar solos. He's a very generous player in that he tends to support the song more than want to stand out. And I really respect that. I respect people that play for the song. Typically in a rock band, you expect that the guitar is going to be the thing that in just about every song is going to have a solo. Occasionally they'll go, okay, pianist, you can play on this one. I'll let you have it. But Uriah Heep's not that way at all. It's very, it's a very much a band's band instead of a guitar player's rock band, and I really like that. And it really takes, I think, a strong person to realize that the band is the conglomeration of all the components, and that you're not the only one, and you don't need to shine on every song. I really like that. I have great respect for that. But when he does choose to do a solo, man, he blows it out of the park, doesn't he? Every time. I don't mean the song, The Park. I mean, the park as in, hits the ball out of the park. You probably figured that out. Anyway, here's next.
You say you love to spend days, but I will say mine. Wait for the sun and your eyes to turn the river to wine. But don't look at me strangely now. Find the line that's in the middle and run.
I like that they repeated that last part. It went 4 times instead of just 2 because it really gave room for the vocals to kind of stretch out a little bit there. I don't know, obviously in the writing process, was it that that's how they had it and they said, well, you can fill it with something in the vocals, or if the vocalist came and said, hey, could you guys stretch this out a little bit more? I want to put some emphasis in there. I don't know how it went, but in any case, I think it's great. It's nice to have room to open up and stretch a little bit as an instrumentalist of any kind. And I include vocals as an instrument. I think vocals are more likely to do things like that than other instruments, although guitarists are known to do it from time to time, or if you're playing a synthesizer, sometimes you just want to throw an extra lick in there. But in any case, I think it worked really well. And then, of course, a great drum fill from Lee Kerslake as we're about to head into the next section, which is going to be another change. And not a surprising one because you come to expect this kind of thing from this band, but a pleasant one just the same. Now, I do talk a lot about how Lee Kerslake plays a lot of snare and cymbal crashes at the same time. In a case like this, that would be pretty typical of most drummers. So while that's part of his style, that's also part of this type of song, especially that part at the end as it's fading out. It wouldn't be uncommon to hear a drummer play it like that. But, he plays it so flawlessly, you just sit back and enjoy it. One thing I didn't really talk about through the song is I didn't talk a whole lot about the keyboards. They're pretty much in the background. And as I'm thinking about it, and I could be wrong, I'd have to really go back and check against the credits, but it seems like whoever the writer was on the song is the one that tends to get boosted in the mix. Now, that could very much be some political thing that was going on in the background of the band. It could be just something that the engineer did on their own, or it could just be my complete imagination. But, Mick is one of the writers on this one, and the guitar is more featured, whereas the ones that Ken writes, a lot of times those keyboards are much heavier in the mix. This time, the keyboard is very much in the background, almost out of balance with the typical, style of a Uriah Heep mix. So I have to wonder if there isn't something to that. But again, I hate to speculate too much because I'm not going to sit down and go through every song and try and figure it out. But I do think it's interesting how the songs that are coming to mind, that seems to be the case. So I don't know, maybe there's something there, maybe there isn't. But in any case, in this particular song, it's very much guitar driven. You really get to hear the rhythm, which the rhythm a lot of times that Mick plays is buried in the keyboard. So it's nice to be able to hear that. Again, I think panning has a lot to do with that because he is a little to the left, but he's still towards the center, whereas I can hear the keyboard still in the distant right. So they're keeping the panning the same, but the volume level for the keyboard is just much lower than it is on other songs on this album and other songs in general. But it's a good song. It's a good shuffle, and it's one of those that you could just put on and it'll get you pumped up. And you'll be ready to do whatever the thing is that you needed to be pumped up to do. I remember one time I was towards the end, as I used to walk the Vegas Strip like 1 to 3 times a week, just for the exercise and to get out and get some air and, kind of be away from the studio for a little bit. And a lot of times I would go really late at night when there's less people, so I don't have to weave through people or, go through huge mountains of cigarette smoke and that sort of thing. And I remember this one night, I was exhausted. I was really close to the end of my walk. I had one more escalator and then a bridge to cross and then go down, and I was at my car. And I was so tired this particular night. And I remember it was like really windy, so that was taking a lot out of my body. And just as I was about to get to that escalator, I noticed that the escalator wasn't working. And of course, I have to go up. And I'm like, oh, man, I didn't want to do it. I'm like, I don't have the energy for it. And wouldn't you know, now, if you've never been to Vegas, if you've never walked on the Strip, there is music playing everywhere. Like there are just speakers out, and there's hardly a spot that you can go and not hear something playing. And so just as I'm getting to the escalator, trying to just muster the energy to not stand there for 10 minutes and try and gather myself, I'm like, I just need to find a way to keep moving. I can take it slow, but if I can just keep moving forward, I can do it. Wouldn't you know it, Eye of the Tiger by Rocky comes on the speakers. And I'm like, is somebody watching me? Like, do they know how I feel right now in this moment? Are they trying to pump me up? What is going on here? What are the chances that just as I'm at that point, about to reach the bottom of the stairs that I now have to climb, that Eye of the Tiger would play? It's just one of those things that in that moment could not have been more perfect. But the fact is the whole reason I'm even bringing up the story is that there are songs that you put on to just pump yourself up, to get you going, to start your day, whatever the thing is that you need that little shot of juice for, that audio B12 vitamin. This is a perfect song for that. It doesn't waste your time. It doesn't do this long intro where you have to build up to it, and you can use that minute or minute and 20 seconds to sit there and go, you know what, maybe I really don't need, and talk yourself out of it. No, this song tells you need to get up and go and do the thing. And I like that. And it's got a great vocal. It's got a great beat. I mean, it has all the components that you'd want in a song, and a great solo. It's all the things. So enjoy that. And the next time that you're lacking some energy, put it on. It'll get you going. Well, guys, it's that's the week, right? It's Friday. It's time to enjoy your weekend, unless you're on your morning commute, in which case it's time to look forward to enjoying your weekend in a few hours. But in either case, do something fun, do something you enjoy, give yourself a smile, give someone else a smile, because that is what the world is all about. Thank you for sharing this song with me. I've really enjoyed it. I hope you guys have too. And we'll see you Monday on Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. Cheers. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. If you have enjoyed this show, please consider going over to Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast outlet, leaving a rating or a review. Be sure to subscribe to make sure that you are notified when new episodes are available. Please be sure to share this podcast with your fellow Uriah Heep enthusiasts and anyone who you think would like Uriah Heep, which should be everyone. And if you are so inclined, please feel free to contribute to the Patreon account. And if you are not a Patreon subscriber, you can also pay through the PayPal link on the website listed in the show links below. I would also like to thank Uriah Heep for their very generous support of the show, and thank you guys for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Happy days!